If you join the gym in order to build up muscle and be more aesthetic, you've probably asked yourself, which muscles should I be prioritizing for optimal results? And while a balanced physique is still usually the best, prioritizing certain muscles over others is definitely a good way to build up a very aesthetic physique that a lot of people will admire. Then the question is, which muscles do reign supreme? Well, that's what we're going to cover in this video. G'day everyone, and welcome back to Power Aesthetics Fitness, helping you to build your body to both look and perform at its best. In today's video, we're going to be looking over all the major muscle groups in the body and putting them on a tier list as to what is most essential and least essential for building an aesthetic physique. So let's jump right into it. Starting off with the muscles in the lower body with the glutes. Now the glutes are actually a very underrated muscle when it comes to hypertrophy and overall looks and attraction. While usually guys think of it in relation to attraction to a woman, a lot of women actually also find big glutes on a guy to be very attractive. On a lot of different lists of muscles that women find most attractive on men, glutes usually will find themselves in the top 5, if not the top 3. I guess just universally people like butts, what can we say? While I wouldn't say it's an absolute essential, I think making sure that you prioritize getting in glute training is definitely important. I'd say it's probably the most important in the lower body for guys. Therefore, it is going to go in definitely prioritize, though probably will be more to the lower end, since a lot of time guys will want to have bigger upper bodies. Next up is going to be the quads. And the quads, I think, are very good in terms of the fact that they often make you look athletic, since they're one of the most strongest muscle groups and ones which are best for running, jumping, as well as athletic movements, and therefore people will usually associate it with that. And obviously as well, while you do want to have a symmetrical physique, you do not want to have chicken legs, you don't want to have overly sized quads either. If you're spamming the leg extensions and building up absolutely massive quads, it'll look disproportionate and you'll look a very lower body heavy, and therefore it's going to go in very important but not super essential. Next up is going to be the hamstrings. And overall hamstrings kind of have none of the pros that quads have. They don't provide that much size overall to your leg from the front. Obviously you want to have balance, you don't want to have really soft hamstrings compared to your quads, and therefore they're going to be going in needed for balance, but overall not one that you should be prioritizing if you want to have a certain muscle group pop. Next up is going to be the calves, and overall I just never really got the whole fuss with calves. Like, if you have small calves, who cares? Most of the time you're going to be wearing pants and therefore they're not going to be seen. They're not very aesthetic overall. People aren't going to be like admiring calves. Maybe I'm in the wrong friend circles, maybe a lot of people do like calves. Overall I just think they're not essential, as well as the fact that they're mainly genetic. If you have bad calf exertions, there's not much you can really do about it. Some people will just be genetic freaks and be able to pull it off very easily. Now moving into the upper body is going to be with the forearms. Now the forearms themselves are not super impactful. They usually won't be able to get that big, and they won't be one of the go-to things that people look at, especially if you have your shirt off. However, they are very important, since a lot of the time you'll be wearing either a t-shirt or maybe a short sleeve, and therefore will be one of the things that will always be on display. And if you have decently sized forearms and good vascularity, then they're definitely going to be an underrated pick in my opinion. I'd say they probably go in very important, just below the quads. Moving on to the biceps. The biceps are just definitely one of the most iconic muscles when it comes to aesthetics, and I think it's definitely a good thing to have. Similar to the forearms, they definitely will be seen if you're wearing a t-shirt. The peak will definitely be popping out, as well as if you don't have any sleeves on. It's definitely a muscle that people will gravitate towards. It's obviously the go-to flexing muscle, and overall when it comes to attraction, I know a lot of people who do have biceps high on their priority list. They're just like, oh yeah, good biceps are a good thing to have. It's just a good little ball to see. As well as the fact that biceps are usually high on the list of muscles that people find attractive in their partner. So overall, I think it's going to be going in definitely prioritize just above the glutes. Next up is going to be the triceps. Now the triceps are obviously really good for building overall size in the arms, and therefore will be good for building up that overall arm look. However, by themselves compared to biceps are not as essential in my opinion. It's good for volume, but it doesn't have that sort of peak look that the bicep produces. It's just general volume. So good to have, but not as prioritizable in my opinion as the biceps. So I'm going to be putting it in the top of very important, but not as essential as the other ones mentioned. Next up is the shoulders, and this is hands down going to be an essential in my opinion. The shoulders are so important for building up the overall broad look, for building up that V-taper look and the upside down triangle that a lot of people want to build when going into the gym. It also can be helpful if you have genetics that means that you have wider hips. It'll give that illusion of the V taper and counteract the wide hips. It's also good if you have a little bit of weight around your stomach, as well as the fact that just general broadness is good for when it comes to hypertrophy and attraction. Next up is going to be the chest, and usually the chest is the go-to muscle for a lot of people. It's the one which they say is the one they like training the most, or overall they presume is the most aesthetic. This is probably my biggest hot take of the video. I think the chest is so overrated. Overall, it doesn't add much width compared to things like the shoulders or the lats. Having oversized pecs, I think, just makes it look a little bit like breasts, and overall just not that useful. Obviously, good pecs can be useful, but I just think that compared to the other ones in either definitely prioritize or heck, even the very important, I just don't think it is as important. And therefore, hot take, it's going in the top of the needs for balance. However, if you don't do a lot of chest exercises like myself, it's not the end of the world. A lot of the other things like your shoulders, your upper back, your lats are going to be far more important. Next up is the traps, and this is very similar to the forearms in the fact that even if you are wearing a t-shirt or a shirt, this will be able to show that you work out. It's very similar as well to the shoulders. It gives you that sort of broad look, that sort of strong look, and overall I think is just a very underrated muscle when it comes to aesthetics. It's also similar to shoulders in the fact that it has a very high testosterone production, and therefore if you have big shoulders and big traps, it usually shows that you're very high in testosterone, hence why people who are on steroids, those things will blast up even further and they'll have absolutely massive shoulders and traps, and it's a good way to tell if someone's on steroids. But overall, I think the traps are very essential. I think they're going to be going just below the glutes in the definitely prioritized tier. Next up is the lats, and the lats again contribute to building up that V taper. If you do have the wider hips, it will give off the illusion that you have a narrower waist. It will just be overall good for building up good strength, good hypertrophy in your back. It's one of the biggest muscle groups, and therefore building up strong makes it look super impressive, and also will also widen out your shoulders due to the invisible lat syndrome. Therefore, it's going to be going in the essential. Will it go above the shoulder or below it? They're on very similar stances, so I'm going to go just above. I think the lats is definitely one of the best. Next up is the upper back. This is mostly just referring to the rhomboids, the teres major, the rotator cuff muscles, as well as the middle and lower traps. This is very important for building up thickness in your back, while the lats will build up the overall width. This creates very much the broader look that a lot of people want, and it just overall is good for hypertrophy and overall building up a back which has a lot of pop in it. As good as the lats are, it is one muscle group and doesn't have a lot of dividing up of it, whereas the multiple muscle look that comes from the upper back is just super impressive if you can get it to pop and have a low enough body fat percentage. Therefore, I'm going to be putting it in the high, definitely prioritize tier. Finally, we have the abs. Now, the abs are definitely one of the most important muscles. However, it usually comes down more to the body fat percentage. A lot of people will have decent abs underneath. Obviously, you need to do some work in order to actually make sure that they pop enough. But overall, it's going to come down more to whether you can get it low enough. In terms of hypertrophy and attraction, it's definitely up there. I'd say it goes in the definitely prioritized. Does it go above or below glutes? I think it's just a little bit overrated. I think that it's definitely useful, but I don't think that it's the be-all end-all that a lot of people will say where you just need abs and nothing else. I think overall, though, I'm going to put it just below biceps. I think biceps is still slightly better, but probably a little bit better than glutes. But that is my list. And there we have it. If you found this video helpful, be sure to drop a like. If you have any comments or any disagreements with anything that happened in the list, be sure to let me know down below in the comments. And if you want to see more content like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And if you want your own tailored program where I break everything down for you, be sure to check it out on the website, link in the description down below.